My name is Monica Blake, and while my family gathered 3 towns over, carving turkey beneath crystal chandeliers, I was sitting alone in my apartment on 17th and Elmsworth, pouring chamomile tea into a chipped ceramic cup. No phone calls, no invitations, no seat left for me at the table. 2 hours earlier, my mother had called, voice sweet like honey gone sour, to gently suggest I take some time for myself this year. A phrase wrapped in silk but stitched with silence. My brother Ethan echoed it soon after, all casual charm and practiced detachment. "It's not about you," he said, "just keeping things chill." As if erasing someone could be softened by a smile. They called it kindness. I knew it as something else. Deliberate absence disguised as care. But here's what they didn't know. What families like mine never imagine when they decide who belongs and who doesn't. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hovering by the door hoping they'd change their minds. I'd spent years funding their holidays from behind the scenes. Silent deposits, unseen repairs, quiet rescues they never spoke of. And tonight, for the first time, I chose not to show up. Not out of spite, but out of clarity. People say walking away is selfish, that choosing solitude means giving up. But I've learned the opposite. Sometimes silence isn't surrender. It's strength. What I didn't realize as I sat there watching snow gather on the windowsill was that while they toasted without me, the story they'd written was already beginning to unravel. And the version of me they'd tried to erase was the one holding everything together. Before I take you through what really happened, if you've ever been quietly cut out, forced to swallow your own worth just to keep the peace, leave a comment below. I'm not here to complain. I'm here because maybe, somewhere you've felt what I felt. And maybe it's time someone said it out loud. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I dropped my keys into the ceramic bowl beside the door, hearing the dull clink echo in the silence. The apartment welcomed me with its usual hush, the faint hum of the fridge, the snow tapping politely at the window panes, the scent of bergamot still lingering in the air from this morning's tea. I shrugged off my coat, heavy with cold and hours, and turned toward the small suitcase I had packed last night. Red ribbons curled from a stack of gifts beside it, hand-wrapped, color-coded, thoughtful. My phone buzzed just as I knelt to adjust a crooked bow. "Helen Blake," the screen announced. As if I needed telling, I let it ring once, twice, answered. "Monica, darling," my mother's voice cooed, all syrup and faux concern. "I've been talking with Ethan, and we think maybe for this year it's best if you take some time for yourself." I waited. She didn't elaborate. "It's been such a tense year," she added, as though the year had happened to her alone. "And we just want everyone to have a peaceful holiday. You understand, don't you?" Not a request. A decree. The kind she wrapped in lavender language and tied with a smile you could hear even through static. Before I could speak, another call blinked in. Ethan. I didn't answer right away. I needed the full picture. When I finally clicked over, his voice greeted me with the casual ease of someone who'd never once cleaned up their own mess. "Hey, sis. Look, Mom's just trying to keep things chill, yeah? Marina's been sensitive to energy lately. She picks up on tension. It's not about you." I stared at the tiny red gift tag in my hand. "To Ethan, from Monica." "So you want me to stay away?" I said. "It's not about staying away. Just maybe don't come this year. Reset. Recharge. You know?" No apology. No offer to meet elsewhere. No voice raised in protest when I said nothing back. Just the familiar orchestration of my absence disguised as kindness. I hung up. Didn't slam. Didn't scream. Instead, I walked into the kitchen and filled the kettle. While it boiled, I opened my laptop and clicked into the banking app. One by one, I found them. The scheduled $3,200 property tax payment on the family cabin. Canceled. The $1,000 monthly deposit to Ethan's artist fund. Stopped. The co-signed loan for his car insurance. Revoked. Startup seed for his half-baked NFT gallery. Gone. $8,000 a month. Silent currency. My presence paid in bills while my voice vanished from the family narrative. I clicked into a folder on my desktop labeled Holiday Photos. Opened one from 2 years ago. All of us in matching sweaters standing around the tree. Ethan in the center, arms around our parents. Me, half-turned, cropped. The caption, Family Love. I renamed the folder, When They Forget. Then I poured the water over the chamomile blend and let it steep while I deleted the text message I'd drafted earlier that day. The one with the photo of the plane ticket, the excited, can't wait to see everyone. Gone. I cupped the warm mug and exhaled. They'll notice when the lights go out, not when I leave the room. My finger hovered over the trackpad one last time before I reached into the bottom drawer of my desk. I pulled out a plain brown box, sealed and unmarked, and opened a shipping tab on the courier website. Address: 41 Windmere Circle. No return label. No note. Just enough weight to unsettle. Delivery scheduled. And then, nothing. No fury, no second call. Just the quiet satisfaction of subtraction, like finally stepping out of a photograph I was never really in. Chapter X. Outline. Chapter 2. The Gift Without a Name. Hook. I didn't need a chair at their table. I just needed one moment to remind them who held the table up in the first place. Callback Foreshadow Monica remembers the Christmas Ethan smashed an heirloom vase and was called expressive. When she burned a pie crust, she was careless. Chapter Goal. To quietly reinsert Monica's presence into the very event she was excluded from and initiate the chain reaction. Setting split settings. Monica's dimly lit apartment. Soft jazz playing. Snow piling up on the windowsill. The Blake family home in Lafayette. Bustling, ornate, carefully staged for Instagram. Characters Monica, observing from afar. Helen, Douglas, Ethan, hosting. Marina, thoughtful, visually observant, emotionally attuned. Guests, shallow, performative, polite. Plot progression. The anonymous gift arrives during dessert. A simple album of old photos, Monica and Ethan as kids. One caption, handwritten in fading ink, "You once called me your light keeper." Marina opens it, reads, looks up, eyes narrowed. As Helen nervously explains, Marina spots a photo of Monica and freezes. Climax Marina, stunned, murmurs, "That's the doctor who stayed with my grandmother all night. You never said she was your sister." Silence falls. The table halts. Cliffhanger forks hover. Cameras pause. Ethan goes pale. "Wait, why don't you ever talk about her?" Additional notes. This chapter is the ignition point. Marina isn't an avenger, but an outsider whose clarity slices through decades of denial. Important. Monica doesn't need to be present to shift power. Her past kindness becomes her voice. Number of characters, approximately 6,500. Please write the content of Chapter 2 according to Prompt 5. I didn't need a chair at their table. I just needed one moment to remind them who held the table up in the first place. Monica poured another inch of Cabernet into the glass and watched as the snow pressed closer to her apartment window, blurring the streetlights into soft halos. The soft scratch of Coltrane filled the room, a saxophone tracing the shape of her silence. She sat back in her chair, a wool throw curled around her shoulders, and imagined the scene 3 towns over in Lafayette. Helen's turkey, lacquered to magazine standards. Ethan's jokes too loud for their worth. Douglas refilling glasses while pretending he didn't still wear cologne from 1997. And Marina, newer, quieter, probably tucked at Helen's elbow, wide-eyed and gracious. They'd be passing around the ramekins by now. Or maybe it was dessert already. She could still taste the burn in her mouth from that one Christmas, 3 years ago maybe, when she'd pulled the pecan pie out a minute too late. Helen had called it careless with that smile that split judgment from civility. Later that night, Ethan had drunkenly knocked over the vase from Sicily, a Blake family heirloom, and they'd all gathered around him like he was a wounded puppy, cooing about how expressive he was becoming. Monica took another sip. The album should have arrived just after coffee, timed, according to the courier, for 8:45 p.m. She imagined it now, sitting there on the edge of the Blake family dining table, a plain brown square among the gold-rimmed china and starched napkins. Lafayette. The dining room shimmered with fairy lights, eucalyptus garlands curling around candlesticks. Crystal clinked softly. A filter-perfect tableau for Helen's inevitable post caption: family, food, and the kind of peace only love can bring. Douglas was polishing off his second slice of cherry tart, patting his stomach like he always did when cameras pointed elsewhere. Helen beamed at the guests, her lips stretched taut with performance, then reached for a serving dish just as the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Marina offered, already halfway to the foyer. The box sat alone on the welcome mat, unwrapped, unassuming. No name, no note, just a slim square object inside, slightly cool to the touch. "Looks like a book," she said, walking it back to the dining room. Helen's eyes narrowed before she softened. "Oh? Probably from one of our neighbors. They love little traditions." Marina didn't respond. She peeled back the flap, lifted the cover. A photo album, old-worn, carefully preserved. The first image: two children on a swing set, a lanky boy with a gap-toothed grin, and beside him a girl holding a flashlight toward the camera. Ethan and someone unmistakably familiar. Eyes calm, posture still. The same arc of the jawline that Marina had admired in another place entirely. Handwritten beneath the photo in faded ink: "You once called me your light keeper." Ethan's face froze. Helen reached forward too quickly. Let me see that." But Marina held it tight. Page after page, Halloween costumes, birthday cakes, muddy feet in creeks. Monica's name etched lightly in the corner of each photo, in labels, captions, wrapping paper. Her smile constant, gentle. Her presence undeniable. Marina didn't speak until halfway through. One photo caught her breath. Monica in pale blue scrubs, bent over a frail hand, her hair tucked under a surgical cap. Marina's eyes widened. "That's the doctor who stayed with my grandmother all night. You never said she was your sister." The table fell silent. Even the crackle of the fireplace seemed to dim. Forks hung midair. Phones tilted out of Instagram-ready poses. Helen's mascara twitched at the corners. Douglas cleared his throat, but no words followed. Ethan's fingers toyed with the napkin in his lap. A flush crept along his collar. Marina turned fully toward him now, her eyes locked. "Wait, why don't you ever talk about her?" "I wasn't tagged, but the internet had no trouble finding me." The notification came before sunrise. Monica blinked against the soft blue glow of her phone screen. Snow dusted the edges of the window outside, the street below still asleep. Her tea, half drunk from last night, had gone cold on the nightstand. A message preview lit up. "Marina Caldwell tagged you in a post." Except, of course, she hadn't. Monica wasn't tagged. Not officially. But her inbox was a mess of links and question marks from colleagues, med school classmates, even a barista from the cafe near the hospital. She pulled on a robe, padded to the kitchen, started the kettle out of habit more than need. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet you could feel inside your ribs. Her father's words echoed through the morning fog of memory. "Don't bring emotions into public view. It's unseemly." Spoken the day she cried at Ethan's high school graduation because no one had saved her a seat. He'd said it with a kind of pride, as if stoicism were moral currency. Now, the irony tasted like metal. She tapped open the Instagram post. 3 images. First, the photo album, its pages slightly curled, that caption staring back in its fading ink: "You once called me your light keeper." Second, a blurred, candid shot of the Blake family Christmas dinner. Golden light, mid-laughter, a perfect storm of pearls and performance. Third, black background, White serif font. Families rewrite history. Silence is their favorite pen. The comment section was a wildfire. This hit too close. Had to zoom in. Was that Dr. Blake? Tag her. We want her side. Holy hell, this is my mom. Why is no one talking about the power of erasure? She scrolled further. Dozens, then hundreds. And then quietly, nestled among the noise, a message from David Reynolds, her hospital director. Can we speak privately this morning? Nothing urgent, just heads up. Monica stared at it for a second too long before replying. A minute later, her phone rang. Monica. David's voice was smooth but pointed. Your father left a voicemail with HR implying some concern for your mental stability. He referenced burnout, holiday stress, used words like erratic. A pause. No air in it. She didn't speak. I told them I see no signs of any of that, he added. And I reminded them of your perfect record, your overnight shifts, your recent grant award. Another pause. I just thought you should know. Thank you, she said, her voice clipped but calm. They ended the call. She stood there for a moment, robe open, kettle whistling quietly now, as if her body needed time to catch up to the stillness in her mind. She walked to her desk, unlocked her laptop. A folder waited at the top right corner. It had lived there for months, password protected, untouched. She opened it now. Inside, PDF receipts of the monthly transfers, screenshots of family group chats where her messages were met with silence, photos from events she funded but was cropped out of, even the insurance forms where she was the guarantor but not the beneficiary. She didn't send any of it, didn't forward or threaten or react. She simply renamed the folder, Legacy Unedited. The kettle clicked off. She poured water over peppermint leaves, the steam blooming into the quiet. She sipped slowly, watching her inbox refresh itself like a tide she refused to swim in. An email popped up. Subject line, Let's Reset. Sender, Helen Blake, CC, Douglas and Ethan. The body was worse than she imagined. We've seen the post. We think it's best to clear the air offline. We never meant to hurt you. Let's reset. For the sake of family. No ownership, no apology, just PR damage control, veiled as kinship. She moved the message to a new folder. Rewrites. Just as she set the mug down, her phone buzzed again. A new text. From Marina. I didn't mean to set fire, but maybe it was time something burned. They'd tried to erase me with whispers. I answered with a silence lined up in receipts. Monica moved slowly through the apartment, her steps quiet but deliberate, as if her body understood what her heart refused to dramatize. No rage, no tears, just momentum. Finally moving on her own terms. Outside, snow shifted sideways in sharp gusts. The wind howled like an old neighbor, familiar, persistent, unwelcome. But inside, the apartment glowed. A single lamp cast honey-colored light across the wooden floor. Mahler's Fifth played faintly, the strings building towards something that didn't arrive. On her kitchen table sat her laptop, warm from use. Next to it, a half-drunk cup of oolong and a yellow legal pad with names scribbled down in bold, tidy rows. Monica picked it up again, rereading each name as if she were revisiting a patient's file. Ethan, Helen, Douglas, Marina, David. One by one, she opened her digital archive and began filing. A folder for transfers, screenshots of bank statements going back 6 years, monthly, sometimes bi-weekly. Quiet transactions meant to keep Ethan housed, Helen's insurance covered, Douglas's startup tax filings on time. Monica had never asked for repayment. Just peace. A folder for repairs, photos of cracked plaster walls and water-damaged floors in the Lafayette home, receipts from contractors. One invoice had her handwriting across the bottom. Paid in full. Monica. A folder for gigs, emails where Monica reached out to colleagues asking if they needed mural work, freelance photography, or someone with an eye for creative direction. Every gig Ethan had in 2020 had started with her. A folder for voicemails, clipped audio files from Helen, often beginning with, "Hey, sweetheart," and ending with, "Just this once." Always urgent, always whispered, always forgotten when Christmas cards went out. And finally, the master folder that held it all. Legacy? Unedited. She stared at the title for a long moment, then pressed save. The silence felt earned. Her phone buzzed. "David." She picked up on the first ring. "Don't worry," he said without greeting. "HR called it a non-issue." Monica leaned back into her chair. "What did they say?" "Your brother," I'm assuming it was him, "filed an informal concern suggesting you've been overworked and might be projecting stress onto family matters." "I haven't spoken to him in 3 days." "I know. We're not filing anything on our end, but I wanted to tell you before it circled." She nodded, even though he couldn't see her. "Thanks for the heads up." "One more thing, Monica," he said, voice shifting into something steadier, warmer. "Don't let them turn your composure into evidence. I've seen families do that. You're calm, so they call you cold. You're silent, so they claim you're hiding something. Just know I see through it." Her throat tightened, not with tears, with recognition. Someone had finally put it into words. After they hung up, she sat in stillness for several minutes, the hum of her laptop filling the room like a second heart. A new message pinged on her screen. "Marina. They're calling me a drama queen. Should I take the post down?" Monica stared at the blinking cursor in her reply box. She thought of Marina's wide eyes across that dinner table, her pause before the question that fractured everything. She typed slowly. "Number. Don't burn the bridge. Let it rot. Quietly." Then, as if moved by an invisible current, she opened a blank document. At the top, she typed 2 words. "My story." She paused, rested her fingers on the keys, but nothing came. And that was fine. She didn't need to finish it. Yet. She closed the lid of her laptop and stood, stretching her arms to the ceiling like a woman waking from a long, stubborn dream. Just then, her phone lit up in rapid succession. Incoming call, Dad. Then, Mom. Then, Ethan. Then, voicemail left. 0.57 seconds. They came to my door dressed like grief, but I'd already buried the version of me they knew. The knock wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was the kind of knock people practiced in the car. Soft enough to sound harmless, firm enough to demand being heard. Monica was already by the door, her fingers still warm from the tea mug she'd just set down. The steam from the kitchen curled into the hallway like a ribbon drawn toward friction. Outside, the afternoon slushed against the windows. The sun made a faint, watery effort to show up, barely clearing the rooftops. In here, the air was still, curated. No lights flickering, no chaos. She checked the peephole. 3 figures. Helen's tailored coat caught the light like armor. Ethan shifted beside her, hands buried in his pockets, eyes darting. And Douglas, tall, reserved, leaning slightly back like this wasn't his idea. She didn't open the door. Helen leaned forward, voice soft but unmistakably staged. "We just want to talk." Monica stayed silent. Ethan tried next, his tone less composed. "Can you open? I I think it's better if we talk. Not text or whatever." She could see his foot tapping, a tic from childhood he never shook. Still, Monica didn't move. A pause. Then another knock. More timid this time. She unlatched the top lock, then the bottom. Slowly. Her hand didn't tremble. She pulled the door open just an inch, the chain still in place. The sliver of hallway sliced across her floor like a line she dared them to cross. Helen stepped forward instinctively. "Let's not make this bigger than it is. We're still a family." Monica tilted her head slightly, expression unreadable. Interesting choice of words. Ethan leaned into view, face pale, lips cracked from the cold. "You know Marina misread everything. She feels bad. I'm trying to keep things from spiraling. Help me fix it, please. He used that voice, the one that had bailed him out of so many things. Rent checks, broken promises, lies dressed as flattery. Monica looked at him like she was seeing the scaffolding behind his charm for the first time. Maybe she had always seen it. From the hallway came Helen's perfectly curated sigh. "You're being dramatic, sweetheart. This isn't who you are." "No," Monica replied evenly, "but it's who I've become." Helen blinked, thrown for just a second. Monica's voice didn't rise. She didn't cross her arms or retreat. She simply said, "This door isn't locked because I'm angry. It's locked because I've healed." Silence. Ethan took half a step back. Douglas said nothing, just watched her with an expression somewhere between curiosity and calculation, as if trying to assess how permanent this version of her was. Monica didn't wait for a reply. She closed the door with care, the chain still fastened. No slam, just gravity, just decision. On the other side, the hallway swallowed them again. Footsteps shifted, then paused. Behind the door, Monica inhaled. It wasn't theatrical, just a breath that had waited 2 decades to be taken fully. It filled her chest like resolve, like mourning finally metabolized. She turned away, headed back to the kitchen. The kettle clicked on. From the other side of the door, muffled and sharp, came the final shot. "You'll regret this, Monica." She didn't flinch. "For years I waited to be seen. Turns out I only needed one person to see me. And it was me." The first light of New Year's Eve stretched into the apartment like a hush that asked to be kept. Snow pressed gently against the windows, thick and slow, as if the world itself had finally exhaled. Monica moved barefoot across the wooden floor, the quiet familiar and warm. A single candle burned on the table, sandalwood and chamomile. The scent curled through the air like a lullaby she hadn't known she needed. The kettle clicked off. She poured the tea carefully, letting the steam bloom upward. One hand wrapped around the cup, the other brushed aside a small stack of unread envelopes. There, resting on top of the morning's mail, was a package. Light. No return address. She didn't need one. She opened it slowly, peeling back the brown wrapping until she found the letter inside. Handwritten, slanted cursive that leaned forward as if it couldn't wait to be read. "You didn't just help my grandmother die with dignity. You helped me live honestly. People forget kindness when it's quiet, but I never did. Thank you for showing me what strength looks like when no one claps. Marina." Monica set the letter down as though it might bruise if handled too fast. Her throat tightened, not with grief, but release. The kind that leaves space where resentment once curled like ivy. She rose, retrieved a wooden frame from the hallway closet. An old one, meant for something else she no longer remembered. She placed the letter inside, smoothed the edges, and hung it above her desk. A single nail, one hammer tap. There. Her fingers lingered on the glass before pulling back. The screen of her laptop glowed in the corner. She opened it. The folder appeared instantly, legacy, unedited, still sitting there like a sealed vault. She clicked, reviewed its contents one last time, then highlighted all but one subfolder. She hit delete. The only thing she kept, she renamed. Closure. She sat for a moment, scrolling through her inbox. A familiar pattern repeated. "Ethan, can we just talk, please?" Marina moved out. "I don't know what to do." "I miss you, sis. Don't shut me out." She didn't reply. She didn't feel angry or victorious, just done. Her eyes drifted to the corner of the living room. A small tree still stood there, its ornaments simple. White, silver, hand-tied ribbon. She hadn't plugged in the lights all season. She crossed the room, crouched by the socket, and slid the cord into place. A soft glow bloomed through the branches. Faint gold against morning gray. It wasn't performative. It wasn't staged. It was hers. She stood up, tea still in hand, and whispered into the stillness. "Not for them. for me. Then she returned to the kitchen window, candle flickering behind her, and took a long sip. The snow fell without urgency. The phone didn't ring. And at the corner of her mouth, for the first time in years, a smile began. Quiet, small, real. They told the story as if I had vanished quietly, like a breeze that simply slipped through the cracks. But they didn't notice the foundation was shifting, because I was the one holding it up all along. There were days when I begged for crumbs of affection, mistaking obligation for love, mistaking silence for peace. I gave, and I gave, until the giving became a disguise for disappearing. But this time, I didn't plead to be heard. I listened, to my own breath, to the calm after I finally said no. And that changed everything. I used to think power meant being included. Now I know better. Power was in saying nothing, but meaning everything. It was in the refusal to show up just to prove I mattered. It was in saving the receipts, not to expose them, but to remind myself I wasn't crazy for remembering things no one else wanted to admit happened. When they knocked, I didn't open out of fear or duty. I opened just enough to make sure they saw the boundary. Then I closed it, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because healing isn't loud. It's the stillness that follows when you realize you've stopped asking for what was never going to be given freely. I am no longer their silent pillar. I am the architect of my own peace. Some stories aren't about revenge. They're about reclaiming truth without needing permission. Injustice, when met with quiet resolve, begins to crumble under its own weight. And sometimes, the loudest act of defiance is walking away with dignity intact. Because no wall of denial can stand forever against the steady erosion of truth. Like a locked door that no longer needs to be slammed, just gently closed and never reopened.